But I think we can move on then to two coaches that are pretty safe and secure in their non-hot seats. As much as I wanted Dan Campbell to be on the warm seat, I think that I was probably misguided with that selection because this Lions team they're hot dogging with mustard on the Cowboys all Sunday during that game. They're busting out trick plays, up 20 points in the game. I mean, that was a beatdown, and they wanted to humiliate the Cowboys, and they did. And they imposed their will on on an injured team, but an NFL team, and they completely dominated them. I think you got to love where the Lions are at, and they're facing the Vikings, who coming off a bye, feeling as good as they've probably felt about themselves in a long time. I think, and this might be a hot take, I think the Lions are going to beat the brakes off of this Vikings team. I really do. I think that Brian Flores has a great defensive scheme. He's been able to rattle a lot of quarterbacks. I don't think he's going to rattle Jordan Love. This game is being played in a dome.
Not
Jordan Love. Jared Goff. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. But yeah, no, Jared Goff. Yeah, completely different quarterbacks. I'm glad you corrected me because totally different quarterbacks. I think this is a game where Jared Goff is going to go off. Goff is going to go off, if you like that. But yeah, give me the Lions. Give me the Lions to keep the momentum going, and to put a huge win on the board. And the magic with the Vikings is going to run out here at some point. I don't, with Sam Darnold specifically too. I just don't see this sustaining for an entire season. I'm sorry, Vikings fans. It is what it is.
I'm on the opposite side of this guy. I think that the injury to Aiden Hutchinson is to think it's not going to have any kind of impact on that defensive side of the ball when this is the guy that is the disruptor. He's been creating the pass rush for your defense and creating the pressure to allow your defense and the secondary to turn the ball over, and then going up against a guy with Sam Darnold who, other than recently, I think the bye came at a good time for them. He had been protecting the football. I think the Vikings take this one. I think it's going to be a very interesting chess match between Ben Johnson and Brian Flores. Kind of just seeing how that is going to play out. I think points will be abound in this one, but I think with a total sitting at around 50, I don't know if I'm ready to lay over 50 with just how good that Vikings defense has been playing and how Brian Flores has them flying around. I still think it is forgotten of, just the weapons that, Minnesota has. A couple weeks, they should possibly be getting TJ Hawkinson back as well.
Might be back.
I think he might be back this week as well. You add that guy into the offense. Add that guy into the offense and the emergence of Ty Chandler. I mean, he's played well, even given Aaron Jones's injury. We'll see how he's going to be going into this game. I don't know. I think points are going to be abound. I lean the Vikings in this one.
Yeah, and speaking to the running back room of the Vikings, they added Cam Akers back from the Texans today. Spent time with the Vikings last year, so he's familiar with the scheme. I think you brushed on this, Pat. I think this is a very interesting coordinator matchup on both sides of the ball. You've got Aaron Glenn versus, I guess I'll count Kevin O'Connell, offensive head coach, as the man of the show there. Aaron Glenn from Detroit versus Kevin O'Connell for Minnesota. Aaron Glenn, he likes to bring pressure, or at least he did last year. I think he's cooled off on that a little bit, but without Aiden Hutchinson to generate pressure, I wonder if they're going to bring the blitz and try to rattle Sam Darnold a little bit. And I think from that perspective, I will take Kevin O'Connell versus Aaron Glenn just from a scheme perspective. And flipping it to the other side, Ben Johnson versus Brian Flores. That's even more interesting. I like Ben Johnson as a play caller. I think he gets the most out of this offense. He utilizes the talent so well with the way he does pre-snap motion. And Brian Flores, though, I think he's going to know that Jared Goff's a different quarterback when you get pressure on him. His pressure splits versus non-pressured splits are one of the highest in the league. I think that's probably the key to the game. I'm not going to sit here and try to maybe predict what's going to happen just because I think it could go either way. But if you're watching the game early on and the Vikings are able to get pressure on Jared Goff, I think you could possibly make a live bet opportunity out of that, just based off watching the game and seeing how these coordinators and play callers kind of go to battle with each other. Look, very interesting matchup from that standpoint. I probably lean Minnesota. I think a little bit of money's come in on Detroit. I think it opened up at Minnesota -3, and now it's down to 2.5, I believe. So off the key number of 3. From an entertainment perspective, this game's going to be awesome. I don't really have a strong feeling one way or the other when it comes to the spread or who's going to win, but it's going to be fun. And so I'm really interested to see what these play callers do and how they call the game. But we shall see.
And Pat, I think this part is going to be, interesting to see as well about how Dan Campbell is going to be able to emotionally ramp up this Lions defense coming into this game after losing Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, this is what he's made his bread and butter on, is getting the team ready to play, in these kind of games where they may be down and out or they're facing major adversity. But this is probably the most major adversity that they've faced, other than if they were having to start the backup quarterback. So I mean, that's going to be very interesting to see, and I think it's going to tell a lot about Dan Campbell as a head coach with whatever the outcome may be in this game, if they pull it out or not.
Yeah, and to that point, I really do think it is a pick 'em. It could go either way. I would really like Minnesota a lot if Aaron Jones was playing, but I think Turtle, with the addition of Cam Akers, I think that should give us some insight into how they feel about Aaron Jones, and maybe he'll be out some time. But I still think Minnesota does have a pretty clear advantage in the passing game against Detroit's defensive secondary. I think they have one of the softest secondaries in the league. They lead the league in defensive penalties. So I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a field day. Addison's going to have a field day. If TJ Hawkinson comes back, expect a revenge game of sorts. I do like Minnesota. I'm going to take Minnesota. And then I just had some questions about last week's game. Do you guys think that injury to Aiden, do you think it was worse than the Joe Theismann injury? And then the second question I have, should Tom Brady pack it in, come back and play somewhere, and give Greg Olsen his job back?
Well, I don't know which question to start with there. I loved Greg Olsen as a color commentator. I thought he was really good. He should not have been demoted to the B team. But Tom Brady's name carries a little bit more than Greg Olsen, unfortunately.
He's horrible. I hate him as a color commentator.
I don't think he's got like the fundamentals down as a color commentator.
Or a good voice. I think his voice is really annoying.
I mean, maybe he'll get better. Like, it's kind of like the inverse of Tony Romo. Like, I think Tony Romo started off really good and like it's just kind of like fizzled out. In my opinion, as a color commentator, maybe not everybody shares that same opinion.
Oh, hey, I don't know, Jim.
He just Tony Romo. I don't even have to like prepare sometimes. Like, he'll be talking about something.
When Dak broke his leg and he's like, "Oh, I hope he can get up from that." He's able to walk it off.
Looks like just a sprain.
Oh boy, yeah. I don't know. I would like to see Greg Olsen back. I loved him as a commentator. But yeah, now I think I forgot your first question.
Is it worse than Theismann?
Oh, worse than a Theismann injury. Dude, I don't know. I rewatched the video of that, and like they said, you could hear Aiden Hutchinson's leg break and with the volume, and I was like, all right, now I'm out. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Alex I remember Smith being bad too a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember being traumatized by just seeing Alex Smith's injury.
Zach Miller too. He almost died.
Yeah,
right. Zach Miller. It's especially watching any football game, knowing there's the risk for that, and that at the end of the day, they're just gonna get taken off the field, and we gotta play the next play. Like, there's gonna be a commercial break, and we're gonna be ready to go. It's
a crazy.
They're gladiators out there. Yeah.